Talk about Nigel Farage. It's very, very interesting. The attacks on Nigel Farage coming from Labour. They're almost like giving up on the Tories. Yeah, whatever, irrelevant. I have to say, I find, and again, it's not a sexist thing, but I think that for the Prime Minister's attitude towards people who question him in the Commons is so high and mighty and contemptuous.
Yes.
I mean,
he hasn't answered a single question.
No, don't give up on that. No Prime Minister has ever answered a question in PMQs. That's unless it's a planted one. No, but there's a tone. I'm just saying that is a tone that on a Friday night in a lot of pubs in Britain will get you a punch in the face.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that tone doesn't pass muster in many places, but he's got away with it in this little rarefied world he lives in. Mr. Working Class, son of a tool maker nonsense. But he's gone for Nigel Farage repeatedly at PMQs. He's gone for him again in his speech he's going to make today, talking about Nigel Farage's fantasy policies. He said they will lead to a Liz Truss-style economic meltdown. Now, Nigel Farage, I bring back winter fuel allowance for all pensioners. Again, put it inside the pension main payment so you can tax it for the better off pensioners. Tick, job done. Absolutely. It's a hugely unpopular move by Labour to remove it from 10 million pensioners, some of whom really need that money. Wants to scrap the two-child benefit cap, which I think is an insane move by Nigel Farage. I don't know who he thinks that's appealing to, especially not working voters, working class voters who have to live next door to the people who aren't working and getting those extra benefits while having more kids, which those people next door can't afford to have. But also things like, having as it says, it's affordable, having a tax threshold of 20 grand before you start paying any tax. Again, I don't agree with that either. I want lower tax rates at lower wages, but I think everyone should be brought into the tax system earlier than they are right now, simply because people need to feel they've got a stake in how government money is spent. If you're just a taker, not giving anything, you have different views on how much tax rates should be. I think that's really important. But the idea that his policies are fantasy any more than Labour policies with net zero and this mythical £22 billion black hole. Now we've got a £30 billion black hole, and just handing, massive pay rises to train drivers and pay rises to doctors and things. I mean, they're all living in a fantasy world, aren't they?
They are. Well, Keir Starmer, remember, backed Jeremy Corbyn's policies, which make Nigel Farage's claims or desires to be loose change down the back of the sofa.
Very good point.
So, what this says to me is Starmer is concerned about Farage. Five MPs in Parliament, and Starmer's got a huge majority, and Starmer's concerned about this tiny little party. He's seen the way it's destroyed the Tories, and he's now going, crikey, this is going to get me in exactly the same way. And he's gone on the attack mode.
And they used to ignore reform and laugh at them, and that's not. Well, they're still doing that nonsense. Oh, he's a posh boy thing. No one cares.
Yeah, but that's just wrong. And we've got politics by soundbite, and this is where Farage knows perfectly well that we're 4 years out from a general election. He can put
It's another 4 years of this. 4 years.
Yeah, and 4 years of us talking about it.
Sorry.
But Nigel
with
Farage
our self-licking ice lollies, apparently.
Exactly. Nigel Farage can come out with anything that he wants to say that he can do this stage out to scare Starmer even more, to force Starmer to try and attack him, and then leave Starmer vulnerable. Starmer's not good whenever he's on the back foot. And
absolutely
Farage is putting
not
on the back foot at the minute.
Absolutely not. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do get in touch at 0344 499 1000. The Prime Minister particularly accusing Nigel Farage of fantasy policies that will lead to a Liz Truss-style economic meltdown. It's a very good point that he backed. They've got to write off all tuition fees. They were going to spend. I mean, there was going to be a huge amount of spending. Nationalise everything. Oh God, it was going to be as these companies' contracts ended. Well, they weren't going to buy out the train companies.
They hadn't actually said how they were going to do it.
They didn't have. They were a bit surprised to actually get so close to winning. I think most people were terrified as 2017. It's one of the reasons why Boris won so big.
Exactly.
People didn't want him. But again, no doubt at all Starmer is running scared. But are Nigel Farage's policies, are they fantasy? And if they are, and some of them, let's face it, are there any more fantasy than anyone supporting net zero or all these payouts? And I mean, loads of, I think most of our politicians live in fantasy land on their spending. I want to hear from you. 0344 499 1000 is the number to call. Text the word talk in your message to 87222. Get in touch with us on X at Talk TV. Calls are charged at the national rate. Text cost one standard network rate message. I'd love to hear from you about Donald Trump as well and that news about the tariffs. Let's also talk about the Liverpool parade crash suspect. It's still being held in custody, still being questioned. There was a midday deadline yesterday for police to, having already been extended for him to be questioned before any charges can be brought against him. And it was extended once again. Which is very interesting because so much of what this driver is accused of is on camera.
Yep.
Numerous witnesses. He, been charged with. He faces charges likely. He's under arrest for numerous attempted murder. We know, was it 79 people now known to be children, babies. As a father who's been talking about how he just was holding onto the pram and then the
pram was taken away.
The pram was just gone, and then he's sort of rushing, trying to protect his wife. His wife is on the bonnet and then under the car, recovering with a leg injury. I mean, I've said it every day. It's a miracle no one died. Yeah. But what is really fascinating is what is emerging about this man, married, father of three, company director. They always put this in this Daily Mail thing. This £300,000 house. It's an expensive house around Liverpool. He, everyone's going. He's his lovely neighbour. The first thing the wife knew about it was when she saw the car on the news and the police turning up. But then we also got these allegations that there was that he was under the influence of drugs when this happened. There is the possibility, isn't there, that this is just a horrible accident. Someone panicking. Now, if you're behind a wheel, but again, it's an if. We haven't seen any charges. If you're behind the wheel when you're under the influence of drugs. I've got to be honest with you, feel the same about that and drink driving. I wouldn't even have one drink and get behind the wheel of a car. As we know, they're big metal boxes that can be weapons and not lethal, and thankfully not lethal in this case. But the circumstances of this are just bizarre, given that I think most of us, when we first saw that footage, thought, oh, terror attack. Yeah,
the circumstances are bizarre. If he found himself in the wrong place, why didn't he just stop and turn the engine off?
And his car was being attacked.
His car was being attacked.
But that was because I think he'd already narrowly missed people.
And then he continued to drive over quite a distance. And you could see the pictures of him weaving in and out of the crowds. He wasn't trying to avoid the crowds because there was a gap in between them. He was driving into them for some reason or other. So the motivations behind this, the police will be trying to identify that. I'm sure they'll be waiting for the follow-up on all the tests that have been done on to see if there are drugs, drink, and anything else, and to see if anyone's motivated him. The fact that he's a father of three and a company director is irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. It's kind of we often have ideas of the sort of people who, again, Islamist extremist or some I don't know. You've got these ideas of someone who might do something like this, and it does just appear that this But I suppose people are going, well, this is someone who's could be living next door to me, and then this awful event has happened. Now, I'm not saying people should have sympathy. I mean, God, the awfulness of what's happened, but it is just quite bizarre. And it's interesting that the police have been given more time to question him before any charges are or not brought.
It is bizarre, and it's clear there is some uncertainty with something somewhere. Yeah. Otherwise, the police wouldn't be asking for additional time, because, as I said, the CCTV is quite clear. He drove in, he followed an ambulance through the barriers, and then continued to try and push his way through the crowd.
Did he think that the road was now open?
That or
and then you got scared,
or we could speculate around everything. Was he a rival football fan who just hated the fact that this was another football club?
Yeah, it is absolutely fascinating. I mean, again, we'll wait and see if there is any development on that.